Just a few months ago, I made a wild discovery. I have spent the past 3 years telling Google not to look at all of the helpful articles, podcast episodes, business interviews I've done because I didn't remember to uncheck a box. That means all of my efforts for SEO have been completely wasted because I forgot one little thing. I was saying, hey, Google, don't go look at this. This is a major mistake that I'm so glad to say didn't really have an effect on my income. In fact, I had the best year ever last year in 2024. Today, I want to share with you how we can make wild mistakes and still survive them. Let's normalize this. Let's not pretend like everybody has it all figured out. If you think that successful people just hit home runs all the time, buckle up. You're about to feel a whole lot better about your disasters and walk away knowing what to do next time one hits. Welcome to the Establish Yourself podcast, the show that helps coaches and consultants get clear on how to talk about what you do, simplify your offers, and have more fun in your business and beyond. I'm Annie Franceschi, brand strategist, author, former Disney storyteller, and forever Muppet fan. I'm here to help you clarify your message, package your expertise, and streamline your systems to grow a business you actually enjoy. If you're ready for less confusion and more magic, it's time to establish yourself. Welcome back to the fourth and final episode in our Greatness Not Perfection series. This is all about creating the business you really want to have, not the business everyone's telling you that you should have or have to have. In today's episode, I want to talk about getting it wrong, because I think there are too many folks who are in coaching and consulting and online business who do not share when they make a misstep. And I think when we all hear just success stories, we don't really learn how business naturally works. And we don't learn that it's okay not to be perfect. And it's actually kind of the price of admission. You know, there's a show on Amazon called The Goes Wrong Show. Every episode is like a live play that goes hilariously wrong. The failures are the most entertaining and educational parts of anything. I'm going to practice what I preach here. So this episode is really not about how everybody always gets it right. I want to teach you from my own experiences about things I've gotten completely wrong and still survived. Here's what I see happening. We're all trying to predict the future and get everything right the first time. I know, me included, I am a recovering perfectionist. I know I used to be afraid to run experiments because I worried I would fail. I can feel paralyzed by making mistakes. But in 11 plus years of business, I'm going to screw up. You're going to screw up. There's always going to be that box that you forgot to uncheck. And the goal isn't perfection, it's to keep swimming, keep your shark alive. Think like a scientist and run your best experiments. Today, I'm going to share some of my most glaring errors and missteps from 11 years as an entrepreneur. Not because I enjoy embarrassing myself, but when you realize that even someone who's built a six-figure business has made spectacular mistakes and survived them, it gives you permission to be imperfect too. Let me start with the big one that makes me want to hide under a rock. I started the episode with this, but basically, I had to rebuild my website on Squarespace when my book Establish Yourself came out in 2022. I told my virtual assistant team to add all the blog posts to the new version, but to not make them accessible to Google search and other search engines because I didn't want to create confusion between the site that I had live and the new one we were building. It was just a checkbox, but somewhere along the way, I forgot to tell them that when we switched to the new site, hey, uncheck that box. And at the beginning of this year, I literally discovered that no one had unchecked the box. So for 3 years, I basically been saying, hey, Google, don't look at 100 plus of my blog posts, including all the show notes for this podcast. 3 years of telling Google to ignore work that could have brought me ideal clients. You know, I still had the greatest year I've ever had on record was 2024. Multiple six figures, work that I love, new clients left, right, and sideways. This taught me you can make major errors and still thrive if you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. My business survived this huge error because I wasn't just relying on SEO, search engine optimization. I had speaking going. I had this show. I had referrals. I had other consistency containers working for me. But that SEO mistake wasn't my first rodeo with getting things really wrong. Let me take you back to the early days when I thought more was always better. At the very beginning, I thought I was brilliant. Greatest Story Creative had Greatest Story Weddings, Greatest Story Events, Greatest Story Business, and Greatest Story Careers. I was setting out to tell your story in every aspect of your life. It took me years to realize offering all these services for all these different clients, I wasn't running one great business. I was running like 4 or 5 businesses and none of them particularly well. I also started so broadly with my audience. I worked with restaurants and it made me want to tear my hair out because the process wasn't a good fit for their pace and budget. I had no idea where my time was going. So I was catastrophically underpricing myself. I would quote $250 to address wedding envelopes with my hand lettering. If I had been tracking my time, I probably made about $2 an hour doing that. Another mistake I've made, I used to have too creative an elevator pitch. I'd say, "Hi, I'm Annie. I'm a business storyteller. I help you tell your story in your business." But people would think I was a videographer or a blogger. They had no idea that meant branding. I didn't get clients from it. Some of the lessons I learned here was to track my time, to interview my clients, and get clear on what's working instead of trying to be everything to everybody. When I simplified my business down from all the different areas of weddings and events and really focused on the business side, I tripled my revenue and did less marketing. Would I have figured that out without trying it the wrong way first? Who's to say? I don't know. But speaking of things that didn't work out, let me tell you about the time I thought I had the perfect business idea. As you may have heard me talk about, I used to have this paid workshop series or consistency container that I called Branding with Annie. These were monthly workshops that sold out nearly every time. Every time I had a wait list because I had this room at a local co-working space and we would sell out, I think, right at 33 people. And it was going so well that I thought, well, maybe I'll take it online and I'll charge for it. And this could be scalable. I launched it for $50 a month and it bombed hard. I had 3 people sign up. So I decided to cancel it. The feedback was brutal. I got comments like, "This is great as free, but you'd have to add way more value to have me pay for it." I was so turned off by that. I didn't touch it for years. I even internalized this story that I can't scale because people only want these free offers from me. But it took when I was writing my book, Establish Yourself, and I was in the development process and I had this idea to try again. And it took my assistant, Sarah, who encouraged me to try this again, but apply what I learned from the mistakes that I made. I was nervous. I kept waffling. Should I launch something like that Branding with Annie offer? She kept saying, go for it, do it. And that was the thing. I created the Establish Yourself Action Club. It was essentially the same kind of format that I had thought I would do with Branding with Annie many years earlier, but it was better positioned, more valuable, came with all of my tools and templates that I talk about in the book, and it was tied into an entire book. I'm happy to share with you that since its launch over 3 years ago, Action Club has served more than 75 members and generated more than $50,000 for my business. Not too bad for something I had to cancel because I couldn't get anybody to spend $50 a month, right? So that was definitely worth the second try. But not every try is a total win or a total failure, right? And if you want to hear an example of picking the wrong thing and still succeeding, even though you got mixed results, go back to episode 21. That's where I talk about picking the wrong consistency container for 4 years with my series called Branding with Friends. In that episode, I share how it led to success, but in a lot of unexpected ways. The successful launch of Action Club gave me confidence to chase another big magical idea, but one that still fell flat. I had this huge idea to host a retreat at Walt Disney World. I called it Make More Magic. My assistant Sarah and I partnered with another speaker. We pitched it hard and crickets. I had one taker and I couldn't do it with just one person. I was devastated. Instead of just canceling it, I talked to Sarah and she and I decided to go as a peer mastermind to just support each other, help us come up with new ideas for our businesses. And that became one of my absolute favorite parts of my business. In fact, it actually gave me a story that I ended up sharing with Forbes about how failure leads to unexpected opportunities. If that retreat hadn't failed, I never would have created these mastermind cruises and trips where we now will get together and dream big about our businesses on Disney ships or at Walt Disney World. All of these experiences have taught me something bigger about what it really takes to survive in business. As I share in my first book, Permission to Try, the only way to know the answer to the question is by asking it, is by doing it. You can have all these theories of what will happen if I put this retreat idea out there? What will happen if I try to scale my workshop? But you're never really going to know how it's going to go unless you have the guts to try it, to ask the question. You have to think like a scientist and run experiments. Some work, some won't, but the muscle memory, surviving the setbacks, I think that's what separates people who last from people who throw in the towel. I was just talking to my friend Quinn. She's been in business almost as long as I have. And we were talking about the current market uncertainty, the chaos going on in the United States, and how tough it can be when the market shifts and you have to try new things more than you ever did. That's a season she and I have both been in. And one of the things I keep thinking about is Quinn said, those of us who have been in the game for a long time are going to survive. We are going to survive the storm and the chaos and the market uncertainty, not because we get so much right, but it's because we've gotten so much wrong and we've still learned to tell the tale. We have muscle memory. We know it's normal, although hard, for things to go wrong. Here's what 11 years of spectacular mistakes have taught me. We make the best decisions with the info that we have at the time. And sometimes you can only learn by doing. You don't have to hit every single home run to be successful. For me, the key has been not to put all my eggs in one basket, to seek better and better information, to try again when you have new data, and to not be afraid to start over when you've learned something new. So here's your challenge this week. Stop trying to be a gecko. What do I mean by that? My husband and I went on a Disney cruise for my 40th birthday. And he and my son kept telling me that this water slide, hey, mom, it's not too fast. You can do it. I get on this water slide. This thing is like the fastest water slide I've ever been on. I like throw out my hands and I try to slow myself down because I'm just like, I am going to get so hurt. I am so scared. I get to the bottom. And my husband's like, are you okay? I saw you being a gecko. You were putting your hands out. I thought you were going to break your arm. And here's the thing I want to say again, stop being a gecko. That is what I do in business. That's what we all do in business sometimes. We kind of put our hands out and we try to control every single outcome instead of throwing the hands up and enjoying the ride. That's what I should have done on that water slide. Thankfully, I did not break my arm, but it's the metaphor I'm taking with me and I want to share with you is when you find yourself in those moments, try the best that you can to throw your hands up, enjoy the ride. You're already on it. Don't be a gecko. Pick one thing that you have been overthinking or curious to try, but you've been afraid of getting it wrong. Try it. Run the experiment. Learn what you can. And I'll just say, FYI, if you want more help with this, I have got a special gift for you today. The first 50 pages of my book, I want to give them to you for free. There's going to be a link here in the show notes, but the address is greateststorycreative.com/read to get a free chapter of Establish Yourself, Brand, Streamline, and Grow Your Greatest Business. If you've loved this episode and you want to dive deeper into my story and how you can grow your business without so much second guessing, it is right there for you. I just want you to know that whatever you do from here, I want to encourage you to get things wrong. Pixar Animation, they have a motto, fail fast and often. They know that they're not going to get to great movies without failing. When I worked at Walt Disney Animation Studios, they would do a post-mortem, an event after every single film that came out, like Princess and the Frog or Tangled. where they'd all get together as a studio and go, what can we learn from the things we got wrong? What can we learn from the things we did right? For all of us, business isn't this linear line from bottom to top where everything is smooth. It's much more like a water slide that nobody told you was going to be so fast. Just throw your hands up, enjoy the ride, learn what you can. Maybe take some Tums if you need to, but remember, you've got this. You're not alone. And if you feel like you've ever gotten it wrong, just know you're among the best in the business. Hey, do you like surprises? The credits are about to roll, but just like a Marvel movie, stick around to the end for something I put in just for you. Thanks for listening to the Establish Yourself podcast. I'm Annie Franceschi, and if you're enjoying the show, it would mean so much to me if you follow it, leave a quick rating, or share it with a friend. And for free branding resources and more ways to work together, head to greateststorycreative.com/podcast. Now here it is, your moment of magic. I mentioned my friend Quinn in this episode. Her full name is Quinn Tempest, and I love that she says it always makes her sound like a Marvel superhero. And honestly, she kind of is. She is a guide to helping solopreneurs create and live their purpose. And like the Avengers, Quinn and I are teaming up to host a very relaxed roundtable on bringing fun and fulfillment back to your business. It's free, it's on July 24th, and I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to learn from those who have gotten it wrong a time or two, but have lived with joy to tell the tale.